Welcome back to Yoshi Entertainment, everybody. So, just recently, as we all know, the video footage of P. Devil Combs brutally physically assaulting Cassie back in 2016 in a hotel, and unfortunately, I have to say allegedly, y'all know how this goes, was released on the main media news networks. Now, allegedly, this was released by the federal authorities, and allegedly it was not leaked, because leaking it, to say that it was leaked, would insinuate that they did it either illegally or that they didn't have the legal or even moral standing ground, if you will, to release that video to the media networks. So like I said, they released this video allegedly, and a lot of people are saying that they feel like the reason why it was released at this point was because they are trying to send a message. They are basically saying for all these individuals who keep trying to stick up for him, because remember, we were talking about all these people who came out of the woodworks, all the celebrities, even the D and Z list celebrities that call themselves trying to stick up for this monster, for this alleged abuser. They're claiming that this is basically them sending a message to these people, basically now saying, are you going to stick up for him now? After seeing this video, which I will not play on this channel, I just have these screenshots because it was very brutal. It's very disgusting to watch him do that to her. But after seeing this video, basically anybody who comes to his defense will now be labeled an enabler, a defender of abusers, alleged abusers. And anybody who defends him now will be labeled just as disgusting, or almost just as disgusting, of a human being as he is. Now, to give some context to this video for those who might not have seen it or don't want to watch it, basically, this was when she was at a hotel. Allegedly, this is one of those upscale hotels where you pay tens of thousands of dollars, allegedly, to stay at. And the perks to those, I was watching Tisa Tells, because sometimes I do watch her videos, and she was explaining, because she's very good at this. She is an investigative journalist. She knows how to get the information and the facts. And she was explaining that with these kinds of hotels, these upscale hotels that only celebrities can afford, they're not just paying these outlandish prices to access a level of luxury that the average person will not see in their lifetime. Of course, yes, that is what it's for, but it's also for the privacy of it all. Some people were even alleging that he might have bought out that entire floor. And they alleged that and felt that way because when she was running down the hallway, because I know that he was making a lot of noise with what he did to her, nobody came out of those rooms. Nobody opened the door. And I get it. If somebody was in there, they could have been scared. And that's why they didn't make any noise or whatever. But still. But as I was saying, allegedly, this was either during a freak-off, before or after one. And I guess she tried to catch him off guard because he had the, towel around him. Either he had just got out of the shower or he was taking a nap, as they were alleging in the documents. And she tried to take that moment to basically get away from him. She was going down the hallway trying to escape. More than likely, she was probably under the influence, because remember, we were talking about how one of the things he likes to do during his freak-offs is spike stuff, allegedly. But even in that, she was trying to get away from him, and he chased her down the hallway when he realized that she was trying to leave. And then he grabbed her and slung her to the floor like a piece of trash, and then literally kicked her while she was down twice, and then proceeded to beat her, even threw some kind of glass vase at her, allegedly, and drug her brutally down the hallway. There were people who have already known about this level of abuse that was going on, allegedly, between the two of them, who had been around them, who said that that wasn't even the worst, allegedly, of what he had done to that woman within the 10 years that they'd spent together. Imagine what he put her through, what he did to her after he got her back to the hotel room, after he drug her back to the actual room. Now, the sad part, of course, besides what happened to this woman, the other sad part of all of this is how it took this video being released of her being brutally assaulted like this for people to finally actually wake up, some people, not all people, and actually believe that this woman was telling the truth. And it really baffles me how people can really sit up and act like, just like with the R. Kelly situation, I keep telling y'all, that Pete Devil Combs was this innocent individual, that old people are just attacking him because he's a black man, as if people have not been alleging stuff about this guy for years, literal decades, since the freaking 90s. So many people, both men and women, have already established that everybody, quite frankly, quite literally everybody, understands that there are some women who do lie about these kind of charges, about these kind of things, right? We know that. But the grand majority of women who are alleging assault of any kind are not lying. And what also gets me is the people who love to sit up and say, oh, all of a sudden now all these women are being assaulted. People really make fun of the Me Too movement, like it's just a bunch of women who decided to hop up and be like, oh, something happened to me too. No, the problem is assault takes place a lot more times and at a lot higher of a rate than what most people are willing to accept. Some of these men who are making these comments have assaulted people. Some of these men who are calling her a liar really don't want to accept the fact that, yes, there are a lot of really horrible men in this world that makes a lot of women's lives a horrible hell. Doesn't mean that it's all men, and we're not saying that it's all men. But it's once again, the identification with these people, the identification with these celebrities. Stop putting people on a pedestal. Stop assuming just because it's your same gender or race that it's not happening or that they're not guilty. People need to stop trying to silence people on the internet and bashing people and guilting people into silence because they don't want it to be said that their favorite celebrity, once again, somebody who looks like them, is their same gender or color, did something horrendous to somebody. It's not about you and your feelings. It's about the person who was hurt. It's about the victim. And they should not be further victimized by people on the internet who are disgusting, who want to call them liars based off of nothing they actually know about this person and the situation, who aren't even there, who are taking up for people, once again, who they don't know what they're capable of, who've done awful things. But I guess that's too much like right. But once again, this is part of the reason why my channel is here. I've said before, there are certain mindsets that we need to shame. And I'll be one of the first people to say, for all you individuals who call this woman a liar and all kinds of gold-digging whores and this, that, and the other derogatory names, because you thought she was just trying to get a payday from P. Diddy without actually using common sense and doing research and listening to people who'd actually been around him and who's been trying to tell people about him, like I said, since like the 90s. Shame on you for being a horrible human being, quite frankly. And if you're one of those individuals who've never been in a domestic violence situation, you've never had to experience your safety and your life in danger, or the life of your child or somebody you care about because you accidentally slipped up and trusted the wrong person, or you came in contact with somebody and they just were an awful person and you didn't know until after the fact, but you thought you had the audacity to speak on a subject where there are people whose lives were being threatened. You thought you had the right to tell them, oh, why don't you just walk away, when you don't even know what it's like being caught in the cycle of abuse. You should be ashamed of yourself too for also being a disgusting person. This is why every time one of these situations concerning DV pops up in the news and media, I always use it as a chance to tell people, if you are experiencing something like this, what you need to understand is if that person hits you once, they will hit you again. People love to say, oh, pray about it, or stick in there, hang in there. No, sometimes the answer, the guidance to the problem, the solution is to escape. Unfortunately, sometimes they can't just walk away right away, because that could literally get them deleted. So some women have to be strategic about the way they escape and when they escape. This situation is an example of that. Y'all all saw when she tried to leave him during that alleged freak off. He literally beat her into the ground and drug her back to it. So once again, for all those, why didn't she just leave people? Again, shame on you for being disgusting, for speaking out of ignorance and stupidity, quite frankly. Again, I spoke about this before. Unfortunately, there's a time into this sometimes. Sometimes people can walk away after the first time and it'll all be good, but they'll still go through things like being stalked. Again, there are a lot of women who were talking about their personal experiences all throughout the social media networks. Getting away, enduring it. Like I said, that timing, because they knew if they would have tried to escape at one point in time, wouldn't have worked out. So unfortunately, they had to just put up with it until they could escape at the right moment. And then it still was hell for them. Again, with the stalking, basically the abuser being mad because they finally left and was able to escape. There was one young woman on Twitter who was in that kind of relationship. Boyfriend was putting his hands on her because he had a psychological issue. The issue was him, not anything she said or did to him. When she was finally able to get the heck away from him, the first thing her own father said was, "Why didn't you just walk away?" Some kind of stupid comment, as if she could have stopped what happened to her, as if she could control what some grown man that was bigger than her and stronger than her would do. Oh, and just to finish that story, she basically said that the dude ended up deleting somebody and ended up in a psych ward. So clearly the problem, like I said, was not her. I told y'all before, our community, our society has an empathy problem. And that is proven by the alarming number of individuals, both men and women, let's just be honest, who like to respond to these situations by, well, what did she do to him? How did she trigger him? Did she say something? Maybe she was the one who was abusing him first, despite all the evidence and all the proof that is stacked against this guy. Some people are really either just stupid, or they hate women, or they really just have problems that badly in the head. This mentality also stems from what I heard another YouTuber talking about here on YouTube, from people having this mentality where they think, well, only bad things happen to bad people and only good things happen to good people. This jacked up perception of reality. Because if that was the case, then P. Diddy would have been got what was coming to him, if that was the case. I mean, he will get it because, like I always like to say, you reap what you sow. God is not mocked. He's going to get what's coming to him. But just because something bad is happening to somebody doesn't mean they did something wrong to deserve it. Again, with the lack of empathy and common sense quite clearly that has run amok in our communities and our society. Which is why we should shame it, like I said before. Now, allegedly, just recently, I guess you would call him a rapper, Slim Thug. You remember that one? I made a video about him too. How he was talking about how he didn't believe Cassie. He was saying all this stuff. Oh, she's just trying to get money from him. Oh, she just should have walked away, or she, wanted it, XYZ. I mean, he was talking a whole lot of smack about a situation, once again, he knew nothing about. This man, from what I can understand, ain't never been in a DV situation in his life. And again, this is the same guy who allegedly banged his own cousin. So anybody who was actually taking his word for anything should be ashamed of themselves, quite frankly. So he took to the internet to, I guess, sort of apologize for what he said. Talking about I was trying to stick up for a black man. Again, with that stupid behind mentality of aligning yourself with somebody just because they share the same skin color, despite all the crazy stuff they have been alleged to do. And quite frankly, in this day and time, it's just ridiculous to align yourself with a celebrity anyways, because most of them are involved in crazy stuff. And the moment it hits the internet, that's your behind, that's your reputation down the garbage because you chose to do something unwise and put some celebrity on a pedestal. And again, because of a shared color, what did Uncle Cat tell y'all? That it's not about race. It's about right and wrong. It's about good and evil. It's about God and the devil. People still ain't caught on yet, I see. Like I said, though, he had the audacity to try to put together this apology, I guess is what he's calling it. And I'm not tolerating any, well, at least he apologized comments, because that's a load of horse manure. And it is because with that same intensity that he got onto the internet with those videos that he was talking about Cassie again, a woman who went through abuse that he'd never be able to handle, let alone imagine. He should have used that same energy to get on the internet with a video to apologize. We didn't already establish this before on this channel. If you're going to go that far out of your way to disrespect somebody, go that far out of your way to make up for what you did, to apologize. The whole, at least he apologized, again, horse manure, because that's the least he should have been capable of as a decent human being. Anyways, that's all the attention I'm giving to that. So a lot of people were asking some very interesting questions. Questions that they really should have been thinking about concerning certain things long before this video came out. A lot of people were saying, now, wait a minute. The hotel had this security footage of him beating her like this brutally. Why didn't they go to the proper authorities? And once again, I've said this before, these people at the top, the industry, even the government, they do not care about people. As this person mentioned in the top tweet, they're all connected. It's all connected. They do what they want, when they want to, how they want to. as it's convenient for them to do so. This video was recorded, that incident was recorded in 2016, almost 2 years ago. So somebody, and I'll let y'all figure out who the somebody is, was sitting on this information, was sitting on this video for almost 10 years. Now, they allege that P. Devil Combs paid off the hotel to get the footage, but allegedly they only gave him a copy and just didn't say anything because they wanted to cover themselves and they wanted that payoff, which of course is morbidly disgusting and illegal. And people were saying that the hotel should be held accountable. Once again, we're not putting up with any, or the hotel's not responsible for what happens. You're providing a service. People are staying there. Your establishment is supposed to be safe. You have security cameras, for crying out loud. If it recorded something, why wouldn't you take it to the police? If I'm not mistaken, there may actually be laws that they violated by not taking it to the police. They definitely violated some laws by taking hush money allegedly from him for it. So again, this video was brought out conveniently to help take P. Devil Combs down because they're done with him. They're trying to throw him under the bus. So they're using everything and anything that they got in their arsenal that they can get their hands on, or have already had their hands on allegedly, to do so. Once again, I like to throw questions out there just to stimulate thought and have people thinking things that I don't feel like they would think about otherwise. Things I don't feel like people are really considering. And one of those questions is, had something been done with that footage back in 2016? What could we have possibly saved Cassie from? And I say we, but it was up to the hotel, really. But had that footage been given to the proper authorities instead of them allegedly doing what they did, how many more people could have been spared what happened to them at the hands, allegedly, of P. Devil Combs? Imagine, just imagine, all of the abuse that could have maybe not happened. I said maybe. Another thing people were pointing out, and I was glad that they were doing it, was whenever you're watching the video and you see him go and grab her and throw her to the ground, how she essentially just laid there. It was giving domestic violence victim. It was giving the posture of somebody who is unfortunately used to being beat up. They go through this, like I said, cycle of abuse. And once the abuser starts with the abuse again, they lay there. One person was even saying that she was playing like she was lifeless, if you will, hoping that maybe if she just lets him do whatever, he'll stop quicker and leave her alone. That's what a lot of people who have been through these situations have been saying on the internet. There were times where they just crawled up into the fetal position, or just, like I said, act like they were lifeless, hoping that the abuser would just leave them alone. There was nothing, quite frankly, she would have been able to do against him. Look at how small Cassie is compared to P. Devil Combs. What was she going to do? People could say, oh, you could fight back and then get beat up worse. Again, some people, their response to abuse is, if I just let it happen and don't fight back, maybe they won't be as angry and this will pass over sooner. And that's exactly what I saw as well whenever I saw her lay there as he was kicking her on the ground, beating her up, dragging her. Now we have to talk about Junior for a moment. So allegedly Christian Combs decided, in his lack of wisdom and intelligence, to make a diss track because he was mad because, all this stuff that was going on. Or I guess he just thought it would be cute because Kendrick Lamar made the diss track, and I guess he saw how much attention and publicity it got him, and he thought he was, for some reason, on the same level as Kendrick, that his diss track was gonna do the same thing. And quite frankly, I feel like it really backfired on him. He really put together this diss track, calling himself trying to be a rapper, talking about how, the feds came and they tried to raid the house like they had, he made an analogy, if you will, saying, they came up in here like we was hiding devil's lettuce, if you will, calling these people the Fetty Boys. The Fetty Boys. This is what he called the federal authorities. Talk about adolescence, talk about disrespect, and then gonna brag about, allegedly, that there was another house next door that they didn't raid. Basically trying to say that that's where the stuff, if you will, was. If I'm not mistaken, he even tried to use a line from one of 50 Cent's songs because, 50 Cent and P. Devil Combs do not get along, of course. We've explained why in that video with Daphne Joy a little bit. And I guess he tried to take on the beef too, and that's why he put that in that song. And of course, y'all know 50 Cent. He's petty, and I've said this before, that's nothing to be celebrated. Like, it's ridiculous for a grown behind man of his big age of what now? To be petty and all over the internet, essentially being catty, but whatever. But for the first time, I actually agreed with him in what he said. And it was in response to that diss track that Christian Combs called himself putting out. And his response was, and I quote, "Now why would you say some mess like that when you know the feds are investigating? Is you stupid or is you dumb?" Now I agree with that, because that was actually very stupid. Because if they don't think that the feds can do a 180 and about phase and come back and do some more digging, shuffle up and ruffle up some more of their documents, open up some more of their cabinets, move some desks a couple of degrees. Because after seeing them photos of what the federal authorities did, didn't look like they really went in as hard as they could have, like I said before in that previous video that I made about that. While what's his name's mama, Misa, was all over the internet talking about, oh, y'all are roughing my sons up. Again, she's lucky they're both still alive, because things could have really went a whole lot worse than that. But like I said, it was very stupid for him to make that diss track while they're in the middle of an investigation. That's like you're being indicted for something, and then you make a song admitting to what you're being indicted about. That's crazy. That's stupid. And some people were even insinuating, alleging. Now, I said that I felt like it was because the federal government was trying to warn him, and anybody that wanted to side with him, don't do it or you'll go down with him, because now you'll look bad for supporting a brutal abuser, allegedly. But some people were trying to allege the reason why they released that video was because they were tired of him and his sons mocking the federal authorities. That this was the kind of stuff that they were doing, allegedly even partying it up in Miami, living life like it was golden, because they really thought they were about to escape by without any more consequences. And Christian Combs in general needs to shut up and sit down somewhere, because he's the son that just recently got slapped with allegations that were along the lines of some of the stuff that his father has been allegedly doing to people as well. So he most certainly really doesn't need to be drawing any more attention to himself, because it would be mighty interesting if after all of this, again, him mocking the federal authorities, if all of a sudden that lawsuit came out once again and he was in court right alongside his pappy, or right after his pappy, because of what he's being accused of. Anyways, though, so there was a post that Mr. Alex Fine, which is the name of Cassie's husband, he had posted this post a while ago, but it's making its reruns, if you will, its rounds, if you will. It's being put back out there in the media. This statement that he made, I thought it was very powerful, and we need to hear it. And it's very truthful, and I'm glad that he said it, and I'm glad that it's coming from a man, because again, there's sometimes it just has to come from a certain person sometimes for the message to get across. And it's sad that people within the community are so desperate to enable and support abusers that they can't listen to the victims. It takes somebody else to have to say this stuff. But if it takes somebody else to have to get the point across, then thank God finally somebody is getting the point across. But even then, we still know some people will not accept the truth. They will not listen. But thank God for the people who do listen. Thank God for the people who empathize and sympathize and who do not enable or support abusers. So this post that he posted says, "I want my kids and every kid to live in a world that's safe for women and girls, protects them, and treats them as equals." And for all the smart mouth individuals that like to twist people's words when they say as equals, he's not talking about men and women being the same, or talking about, oh, well, women should have to do hard jobs like men because they want equality, or get thrown under the bus because they want to be the same as men. He's speaking of one not being superior to the other. Because again, I've seen the ways that people have taken those kind of words and twisted it to just be stupid, to promote all kinds of stupid stuff, and to be really annoying and immature, especially towards women. So I just wanted to clear that up for anybody who, like I said, has that kind of toxic mindset. Now, anyways, he also put, "To the women and children, you're not alone and you are heard. If you need help, call," and he inserts this number for anybody who needs it. Now, he also said, that he had posted, like I said, that post that I was talking about. He was saying this was a letter, if you will, to women and children he wrote some time ago, but it's still very relevant today, and not just today, but every single day. And it says, and I quote, "Men who hit women aren't men. Men who enable it and protect these people aren't men," the letter stated. As men, violence against women shouldn't be inevitable. Check your brothers, your friends, your family. Our daughters, sisters, mothers, and wives should feel protected and loved. Hold the women in your life with the utmost regard. Men who hurt women hate women. And once again, what we're not about to do is insert some kind of whataboutisms or make this about anything else other than what it's about, because people also love to do that in these situations. Oh, well, what about the women who hurt men? Yes, that is true. There are some women who do hurt men. What we're talking about right now, though, is the Cassie situation. What we're talking about right now is the unfortunate abuse that a lot of women suffer at the hands of men, and that there's a lot of men who enable the abuse. They support other abusers because they are abusers themselves. Our society, there's a lot of people who set up these infrastructures, if you will, to keep abuse going, to enable it, because they like it. There are a lot of people breaking down the psychology of this all on Twitter. It was very enlightening. Again, how a lot of people's communities are set up to enable abuse, to not check other men because they wouldn't want to be checked. It's about covering for each other so they can get away with what they're getting away with too. And again, I'm glad he called out the men who don't check other men. Because, again, women can say, hey, stop abusing us all we want to, but they can't make a man do something that he doesn't already want to do. Although a man can check another man, but again, a lot of them refuse to do it, and they bring all kind of excuses into the chat, if you will. Oh, well, I don't want to have to fight another guy. Oh, I don't want to have to this. I don't want to have to that. And again, this goes back to them saying, well, why didn't Cassie just leave? There were other men who didn't even want to get involved with fighting P. Diddy, stopping him from doing what he was doing to Cassie. So again, what was she supposed to do? With a society of either men who abuse you or don't stop the abuse, what is any woman supposed to do? And again, I'm not saying that it's all men, but I'm glad that he pointed this out. There was even a young man on Twitter who called himself out. He put himself in the hot seat. He said that he was ashamed of himself because he was actually in a store with other men, mind you. And they watched a man abuse his wife in public, pushed her around, hit her, then made her get back in the car to drive to do whatever else, God knows what, to the woman. And he said all of them stood there and watched. He said most of them were bigger than the guy that was beating his wife. But they literally just stand there and watched. He took accountability. He called himself a coward and those other men for not doing anything. And a lot of people was actually very supportive of him. I feel like a lot of people really think that if they admit, okay, I didn't exactly do what I could have in a situation because I was more concerned with my own safety instead of standing up and doing what a man is supposed to do and be a protector in the community, because you just either didn't care, you were afraid, or like I said, you just didn't care, because some of these men, if you're not screwing them, you're not their mama or their sister, they're not looking out for you. And even if you are one of those, they're still probably not looking out for you, unfortunately. And I don't know how many times I have to say not all men before somebody refuses to take it personally. But like I said, I feel like some people don't want to take that stance because they're afraid people are going to throw stones at them. And sure, some people will. But there were a lot of people, like I said, being very supportive of him, saying that, well, you did the right thing by taking accountability like this, like you going out of your way to say this means that you've grown clearly, that you're trying to do better, that you're trying to do the right thing. But people would rather save face than do the right thing these days. Now, there was another part of his post that I would like to read as well. In conclusion of all of this, and I quote, "To all the survivors, find the men and women who help and love. To all the survivors, your stories are real and people believe you. To all the survivors, you're not alone, and there are men and women who care only for your well-being and safety. We want you to succeed and flourish. To all the women and children, I'm sorry you live in a world where you're not protected and you don't feel equal." Once again, equal meaning not inferior to another gender or race. To the abusers, you're done. You're not safe anymore. You're not protected anymore. These men by your side are just as weak. You're so miserable with yourself that deletion would be considered a kindness. Once again, it takes a lot of courage and a lot of backbone to make that kind of statement, to take that kind of stance when you could have been worried about your own safety, about your own skin, about your own kin, and people who are around you and that you care about. But again, this is something that the community, our society needs to see. I'm not saying it's always easy. Yes, of course, there's a safety measure. But at what point do we draw the line? At what point do we stop, again, enabling abusers? At what point do we stop thinking about ourselves only and think about somebody else? I've said this before 1,000 times. We reap what we sow. When you throw somebody under the bus or you exhibit a lack of compassion and empathy when it comes to somebody else's struggle, don't be shooketh when you have to pay for the consequences of doing that. Don't be shooketh when that same thing happens to you. Now, unfortunately, he will not receive any charges allegedly for doing that to her, which, like I said, is very unfortunate. And this is why, once again, I'm bringing this up again. We should not be listening to stupid, foul-mouthed, cousin-banging individuals like Slim Thug who really think that there should be no statute of limitations, because that's why he's not getting charges for brutally assaulting her allegedly, because of the statute of limitations. They said that it happened X amount of years ago. The statute of limitations, unfortunately, has been exceeded, so he won't receive charges for that. And I think that that's absolutely absurd. Let me be real honest. I don't care if it happened 100 years ago. If both parties are still alive and kicking and the victim still wants to file a lawsuit, they should be able to do that after being beat that brutally. You've got to be kidding me. But like I said, he will not receive charges for doing that to her, which is crazy. But like I said before, it's no surprise. Although at the same time, that video being put out, even though he's not getting charges for it, he's still catching hell, because once again, everybody is seeing in real time the monster, allegedly, that he really is. It makes it harder for people to take up for him, like I said before. And it makes the people who were vouching for him look bad too, as they deserve to look bad because they decided to defend an alleged abuser. Anyways, y'all let me know what y'all think and how y'all feel about all of this down in the comments below respectfully. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Y'all have a very blessed, beautiful, and safe day.